Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsor, Make Some Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant code calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns. Sam Quinnan's showed off 47 Furious Tales and how that looks, and Mixum prints that book. So right now they also offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And they right now are running a promotion where listeners of this show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. And I know, and I'm sure my guest, the count, will attest that every percentage point that you can save on printing or in any aspect of your Kickstarter really can help, whether you got 10,000 over your goal or 1,000 over your goal. So that is Mixam.com. Type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on that very order. And I have with me returning guest, the Count of Monte Cristo, Aaron Dowen. So welcome back. I blew your cover purposely. Your cover is blown now. So you can now change it back if you would like.
I'll just change it to his other name.
So welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a few months.
It feels like years.
I feel like we did it for One Last Job 1, right?
We might have done it for One Last Job 1, or we might have done it for one of the tilts. Is this the second or third time?
I believe this is the third time I've been on.
Yeah, it has to be the third time, right? Because yeah. I think this is the third time. And so we did one with Matt before.
Yeah, that would have been Everville. Okay.
And so obviously lots going on because you have One Last Job that's hitting out right now. The second issue is currently being funded on the wonderful, approving massively Kickstarter. If anybody's been following me on Facebook, they know what's going on with that joke. But One Last Job issue 2 is actually out. And I know that we sort of spoke about the first one. We went really into details on it. So let's sort of catch up everybody who missed issue 1 and missed that first interview that we did talking about that issue. So what is the basic story for the stragglers who are coming into class late?
Yeah, definitely. So this story is about an assassin and a spy who's trying to get out of the job. He's having heart problems. He's too young to die like this. You know, when you're a spy for long enough, you've drank enough poisons or ingested enough poisons that's going to mess with your system, right? So he just wants out. He just wants to take his wife, start a new life. So he does his last job and goes to get his wife and leaves. And then there's a large twist at the end of that story. And issue 2 starts right after that moment. And we have to start unraveling who is behind all this stuff that's going on. So it's a lot of espionage, a lot of spy play, a lot of fake faces, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so let's dive a little bit into this to give a little more juice into the steak that we're cooking here. So obviously the main character is Thomas Claiborne, and he wants to go basically into retirement because he is having issues and he's very good at his job. And there's that going on. And so what was this like really building him out? Because at this point, he's having issues, but if he stops now, he's not going to die. And he can sort of just continue and live a normal life for the most part. And so what was this like? Because it creates a very interesting character where somebody's good at their job. They have a very unique skill. They're obviously, the government doesn't want to lose them, or whoever they're working for doesn't want to lose them. I don't want to say it's the government, but I'm assuming he's working for the government on this job, right?
He's working for somebody.
Yeah, fair enough.
We'll find out.
And so what was this like really building him? Because it's a very interesting position to be in when you're where Thomas is at, because you know, you have such unique skills, but also you're having these problems, and you're also good at your job, and well, you're sort of handing in your resignation letter, but well, if you have all these skills, you are a threat still out there. And so, what was that like really building his core character? Because it's such an interesting discussion. And one of my favorite books is Polar, that deals with something similar.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to do just a different twist on a spy thriller, and that's what I grew up with. You know, 007 and Mission Impossible, and then the Bourne series when I was about teenage years, and then there was the Taken series as well, and all that kind of stuff. I was thinking about the marriage aspect of it, and so it's kind of weird for a spy thriller to have a main character who's actively married, just one person, not sleeping around, not all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to make it as much of a thing about him wanting to be there for his wife, and then play on this element of him starting to develop a heart condition, having to take medicine for that. And I didn't know how important that element was going to be until I really fleshed out that first script. And then I realized how much fun I could have with that element of him having heart problems. So it comes up a few times in the first issue, and it'll come up again throughout the rest of the other three issues. But he's a very skilled spy. He's very skilled at assassinations as well. And that builds a list of enemies. And we don't know exactly at this point who it is that's kind of acting against him. But people will think they know at the end of the second issue.
And so even to go further into that, because obviously I think it's pretty clear at this point, not to ruin anything for those who haven't read it, but somebody he finishes his last job, and then he's moving on with his life. Obviously, he probably is getting paid pretty decently well that he can afford to move on, or maybe he's owed money, or maybe something's happening, and well, somebody then takes his wife. And now it becomes this entire thing where he's like, now I gotta go find my wife. And what is that like? Because obviously that's where a lot of the suspense sort of starts coming in, is saying, A, who took my wife? Why did they take my wife? What is my wife involved in? Is it me? Is it my wife? And all that stuff. And it creates a very interesting circumstance, because now, if it was a regular hostage negotiation, and he wasn't close with the person, you have a lot more leverage. But when the ability is your close family, you don't have leverage. And also, I would imagine in his line of work, it's not like you can call up, a government agency to save you, because this is all, I don't want to say it's the underground world, but it's not the surface world either. And so what was that like? Because this really forces him to sort of be his own SWAT team and utilize his skills and find out what's going on, and then also start uncovering. And I got 15 more questions coming out of this one, because this is so interesting.
Yeah, man. So one of the big inspirations for the way that I told this story was Burn Notice. It was a USA show, and it centered around a CIA agent who was dropped off in Miami and received a burn notice, which means everything's frozen. You're pretty much stuck in the city that you're in. You have to restart your life. You're not really in the CIA anymore, which means you don't have access to those resources. So in that same vein, Thomas retired. For all intents and purposes, he is retired. And once this thing happens, when his wife gets taken, it's all on him now. So the very beginning of the next issue, I would say within the first 7 pages, is some of the craziest action that I've scripted so far. And I wanted to do something very off the wall for some spy stuff. And I like to have as much fun as possible. So we know the goal, right? The goal is to figure out who it is that took his wife and to get his wife back. Anything up to that point is just him putting these pieces together, starting to solve whatever it is that's going on. Like I said, at the end of the second issue, people will think they know who it is. The full reveal is going to be in the third issue, and I can pretty much guarantee that everybody will be like, I had no idea it was going to be like this, but now I can see how it made sense. So for people that read the first issue, they'll know I laid little moments throughout the book that would lead up to the reveal that that wasn't his wife. And there's the whole discussion he has towards the end of the book, where he's talking about routines. You know, when you're married, you notice your wife does the same routine, just like you do the same routine when you're going to bed at night and stuff. And he started noticing she's not doing the same things as normal. And that kind of leads into that final ending. And then, like I said, we pick up right in the moment after that with issue 2.
Yeah, because there's stuff going on, and obviously when you're dealing with things, and obviously, you know, as I stated, one of my favorite books is Polar. That's why I like this book in a lot of ways. It follows that similar vein, and it's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of betrayal.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of, you know, framing. There's a lot of political moves that are sort of being made in Polar, and I have a feeling that, well, when you're in this world, well, there's agents crossing other agents. There's also the threat of saying, well, we don't want him around anymore. You know, it's this idea that, you know, it's you are too good at your job. And so if we allow you to retire, we don't think you're going to come after us, but you might. Or somebody else might make a better offer. And so that's in play. And there's all sorts of stuff in play. And then it's also the idea that, you know, maybe his wife's in on it. Maybe she's not in on it. Maybe his wife, you know, never was, you know, there. Or maybe his wife's been dead for 20 years and he just hasn't noticed because he's not around. Or maybe, you know what it is, the medication he's taking is implementing and then you switch medication. There's a million things that could happen with this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And to throw another pipe bomb in there, for lack of a better word, and mix things up, it could very well be that his heart problem is the entire cause of having to him retire, be derivative to get rid of him, and that it could have been a set-off. And so a million things could happen, and very interesting with what's going on. And so because there's a lot of area you could play in, and I don't think you're going to be touching on everything I just said. And that's why I'm taking a very scatter shotgun approach to this, because I'm getting people to think about what's going on, and I'm hopefully hitting certain points and misleading on other points. So I want people to buy the book.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, so, you know, with it being a 4-issue miniseries, I've had the whole thing planned out, how it ends and everything, since before I scripted the first one. So now I'm getting to get into a little bit more nuance. For instance, in the first issue, once I actually did start scripting it, when I hit about page 12, originally I had a whole different scene. It was him doing another job that was supposed to be the real last job. And it was a little bit more straightforward. But then I decided to do a little something different and go action heavy. And so there's a lot of like John Wick style moments with him and then his partner, Beth. And I want to continue that same kind of vein where there's these moments of deep character development and deep character-driven storytelling with these intense moments of action and just realizing, oh, Thomas really is good at what he does. Because I want people to be able to fuse those together with him trying to be a good husband, him trying to just get out of this life and then having to get ripped back into it.
Yeah, it's very interesting with where it's going, and then obviously, you know, to even further down this and play with this is that it's also done in black and white, and I don't think it's accented, right? Meaning that there's no color in it.
Right. Yeah, we did straight black and white. We did that for a specific purpose. It's very much that noir style. This book has always been planned to be black and white. So we found an artist who's good with grayscales.
You know where I'm going with the question, because what Polar does and Sin City did is that they've highlighted aspects of it, and I think Apex by Ben Cook highlights certain aspects of color, and it creates a very unique blend. But obviously, that also changes the comic because it gives more narration to it. You know, narration isn't just straight black. If I had red for blood in a comic, in a black and white comic, it forces narration. And when you don't do that, it doesn't force narration the same way.
Yeah, and so that is why we see so much of Thomas speaking in captions, is because I want you to get into his head and not get lost in these little panel to panel moments. Rather, I want you to understand the overarching storyline and where things are leading to, because then it's going to leave your brain at a moment that you're like, oh, this could go 15 different ways, and then you get the joy of the resolution and whatever the next scene is. So it's a little bit different of an approach. We did do, like with Welcome to Everville, we did 2 versions of that book. We did the full color version, which is the PDF that people can get. And then we did a Crimson Noir version, which was black, white, and red, and only the reds in the book were accented. And by the time we finished doing that, we realized, oh, we probably should have just made that the regular version, because that's the one everybody talks about. So now going forward, we're always going to do black, white, red version in the Everville saga, and it'll just be an exclusive thing. So.
Yeah, because it's very interesting when you go, because I think a lot of people when they're building a book don't understand that there's a lot of creative choices you can make.
Yep.
And obviously I go back to an anime, and it's slightly off topic. I don't know if you've seen Minglobox by any chance.
Sure haven't.
So what they did with it is that it's a modern anime, but they ran it through a filter that made it downgraded, that made it more gritty, and made it seem so you get that really high resolution, like 1080 animation, like you've seen really good animation, and you do some animation work, at Catalyst. But it's the idea that then you run it down through a filter, so you get that crispness, but you get the grittiness, and it creates a very interesting thing, and it's a stylistic choice. And when you're doing black and white, I think a lot of creators don't understand that they're stylistic, and also when you do those accents, as I was sort of going to, and we were speaking about a little bit before, obviously all those things, and even your caption boxes and your word bubbles, they all lead down paths. Because while in comics, the reader has a lot of control, because you're using, unlike a book, unlike a movie, in a comic book, I could determine how fast Thomas speaks. I could determine, how long a scene takes. Does it take an hour? Does it take 5 minutes? Does it take 30 seconds? I could determine if Thomas is a fast speaker or a slow speaker. I could determine if Beth is that. But obviously, black and white leads down a certain path versus in color. So what is that like, even just mapping it out in your head that way? Because every choice you make is obviously getting to that resolution, and obviously you work backwards. So that's something that's fascinating, where I don't know how many creators know exactly what they're going to be ending a series on.
Yeah, and typically on all my miniseries stuff or one-shots that we have planned, I know what the ending is before I start the script. So even for Everville, I know the 6th issue, I know how it ends. And then I usually will backtrack through each of the issues and say what the turning point is for each of those. For this one, I did leave issues 2 and 3 a little bit more open for how I wanted to leave off. But I know exactly how the series is going to end. But with it, when it comes to like the choices for black and white and captions and all that kind of stuff, it's all just part of the storytelling. Different phases, being able to letter in a way that draws people's eyes to follow along the story. And I'm sure we've all read comics, even by the big 2, where the leading's off. And so you'll be reading one panel and then you'll be like, oh, I was supposed to be on this panel over here first. And we try to be very conscious about that. And so the art helps drive your eyes. The lettering helps drive your eyes. And when it's a black and white book, all that stuff has to fuse together with a very limited color palette because it's black, white, and gray. But it's a lot of fun to try to put all those pieces together. And it's funny because the only people that ever say something about the black and white stuff are other creators. They're the only ones that will ever ask, like, oh, did you do that to save money or what? And when you talk to just normal readers, consumers, they're like, dude, this is dope. It's never a question. So it's just part of the whole being in the world.
In my defense, I am a color guy. So I love color. I love colors. I love books that are oversaturated, new school to the max.
Right.
Like, I am waiting for somebody to just give me like new school on steroids.
Right.
Like, I have not seen a book done in new school on steroids with new school art, new school drawings, every panel, and I am a color gluten. Like, and so I don't mind black and white and grayscale. But if I have to choose between that, like I love color and I love oversaturation and like seriously, like, if I ever write a book and it's a new school book, I'm going to pay, my colorist is going to be the most expensive person that I pay on that thing because they're going to be the one who's working the hardest. It's going to be sick.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. And it's going to be like going to Tokyo and like your eyes are going to like just like burn inside seeing everything. It's been great. But anyway.
Well, just like that, it comes down to what the story is more than anything else. And so for us, it's a spy thriller. It's a noir story. And it's one of the things that I thought about a lot when I was creating it was the opening segments to a lot of the 007 movies that are all in black and white, and then it switches to color later on. And then there's the Sin City vibe as well. So I wanted that gritty kind of aspect to it. But the black and white was really just to help drive the world and to let Daniel, the artist, kind of play with that, because the dude can do some crazy textures and stuff for backgrounds. I just want to let him play with it, and he's done such a cool job doing stuff on there.
No, I get it. It's just that, like, I just love color, and I'm a little.
Oh, and I do too. I mean, this is the only thing we've ever done that's not. Everything else we do is tilt, a lot of color, paradigm color. Even Welcome to Everville was a limited color palette, but it was still color.
See, that's the problem, is that I am spoiled because I come from places like Zenescope, and I come from places like Aspen.
Yep.
And I come from Bad Girl Art, like as like that go-to place, and so I'm spoiled with color. So having said that, though, obviously I don't want to push, because if I keep pushing on what issue 2 and issue 3 and issue 4 are, I'm gonna hit how this book is gonna all go down, and I have a pretty good idea of.
I bet you don't.
I think I do, but that's okay.
I don't know.
We're going to talk after.
All right. We will.
But all jokes aside, getting back into some more serious stuff, one of the things that I actually am curious about, because there's been a shift in indie and in mainstream where people are moving away from doing 50-issue series. And look, I'm sure you like 50 issues of Batman just like I did. I thought Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run on Batman for 50-plus issues was pretty good, but it's also a big commitment for me to, preview order it all the time and have comic shops order it. And after 25 issues, you say, okay, I'm getting a little sick of this. And also, how many more are they going to go? And it's also a big commitment, to hold in your long boxes. And what I've noticed now that's come out is that a lot more companies are doing mini-series. Titan Comics is a big one. DC with the Eat, Bane, Kill Tours, it's a 6-issue mini-series. Obviously, Zenescope is doing a lot of one-shots. And so you do a bunch of mini-series. And so what do you feel was the moment where things shifted, and also the reasons behind it? Because obviously, I'm looking at this not from a publisher standpoint, but from a consumer standpoint. And the way I view it is that it's time to complete a story, it's commitment to the story, and it's money for me as a consumer of comics, and not so much as, and I'm curious what it is like for you as the publisher.
Yeah, so for us, it's very much a time thing and a money thing, because indie comics is going to be slower than the big two. We're not going to be able to get a book out every month in the same series when you're in small press. Some of the larger ones, they're able to do that, but even them, most of them are doing limited runs. Also, when you look at the big two, there are reasons that the creators change as often as they do, because they have to try to freshen it up, and then sales as well. Look at like Robert Venditti. He did that fantastic run on Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, and I think they gave him 50 issues, and then they just canceled the whole series. You don't see a lot of books anymore that are going 50 with the same creative team. But for us, it was very much monetary, and it was also, how much space do I need to tell this story? We actually had this conversation very recently on one of our shows where we were discussing why 12 issues and why I don't look at 12 issues for a story arc, is because you'll typically get issue 1's going to be great. It's going to usually end off with a light introduction of the villain. Issue 2 is going to be good because you're going to see the villain. And then you're going to have a lot of fluff all the way up until about issue 10. And then 12 is going to be the good ending. 11 is going to be like the lead up to the ending. And 10 is like more of the story building. All that stuff in between is just world building, fluff, you know, and it can be used for good. But for the most part, we end up following a bunch of different characters' stories that all kind of lead back into each other. And is that necessary? Does it take away from...
Even go further into that, because, I mean, from a business standpoint, if I'm to go create a big series, one of the things that I want to do is that I'm looking at it maybe a little bit different, and this is where my business, I guess, acumen comes in, is that I might go create a 12-issue series with the intention of using 10 of those issues to build a world so I could go sell to Netflix. And that's a different business model, because the goal is to get it optioned and have a plug-and-play world sale. So the comic for me, and I don't know anybody who's openly said that, but I'm assuming, and I know the rules about assuming here, and I'm willing to take the risk, but if you have a 30-issue series or a 50-issue series in the indie world, maybe your real play isn't so much that the book sales themselves matter, but you really want to develop a world so you can sell to Netflix. And I understand that it's a different business model, because you're not really selling comics at that point. You're selling an IP. And it's
what's important, right? It's what's important to you as a creator. So for me, that's not our goal with anything. There are certain properties we see that we could see getting optioned, but we see a lot of our creative friends who get their things optioned, and all it does is block them from continuing, and then you have to wait around, and a lot of them just nothing ever happens. Right. They do that for a reason, right? They want to buy the IP, but if they don't want to pay you out for ongoing, they want to take sections of your IP to kind of flip it into their own mold. And it makes sense from a business standpoint, but it's how do you use, what are you writing for? For us, we're not writing for options. We're writing, I grew up with comic books. I just write because I like comic books, and that's the medium of storytelling I'm doing. I also do short stories because I enjoy that medium as well. If I were to just sit down and gear toward writing something just to get optioned, then yeah, I could see where you would do a longer run. But you may luck out with things like, for us, Everville's going to be a 6-issue series, but it's something that nobody's done with a Van Helsing story before. And so you don't know where that's going to come down the road. But that's not the reason behind what we're doing.
Also, what's starting to happen as well, and I'm curious how you feel about this, is that unlike the big two or even other companies like Zenescope or Titan Comics or Dark Horse with a mini-series, you know, getting talent and keeping talent for 12 issues is extremely difficult, because everybody's got bills to pay, and a book in the indie world isn't going to pay, you know, somebody's rent per se. It's very rare that it can. And so keeping talent around and keeping talent happy, if they don't have equity, if they don't have an upside, if they don't have a good contract, you know, it gets complicated. And also, you know, obviously there are different ways how to structure contracts. I can give a perfect example, is that if I'm a writer on something, I might purposely take less money on a deal if I think the project's going to be good. If I could have my own exclusive variant that's 100 limited run that I get to take out of the entire project, and then I know I could sell those books for $80 a pop, because I can make my money on the back end. That's a different way how to do a deal, and an artist might want to do that, because all of a sudden there's real incentive for them to go to a con and have a really high-end product. But that's the thing I think also that matters with time, is that keeping talent around is difficult, not to mention that, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but I have, where a lot of people, you know, in particular through Zenescope and other companies, and even in the indie scene, they're coming up, they do maybe 12 issues of a book, and then DC, Marvel, or Zenescope, or Dark Horse, or Aspen says, hey, we're going to pay you real money now to do something. And all of a sudden, I don't think it's particularly fair that, you know, DC's saying, hey, we're going to give you a page rate of $300 a page, and somebody's working on an indie book for $60. it gets complicated, because how do you say to your artist, you can't take that deal?
Yeah. So, well, there, like you said, there's ways to do that in your contracts. So for us, this is where I'm going to get into a lot of stuff that people probably won't like, but that all of us talk about behind the scenes. So for us, when
I'm not talking before you go into the contracts, what I'm saying is that even from a moral level, it's very hard. Even if that person completes the next 4 issues, they're going to be leaving after those 4 issues.
Yes.
And this is what I mean by retaining indie, stuff. But just from a moral level and relationship levels and business levels as well. But continue. Sorry, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I get it. All this stuff, is going to be stuff that people might not agree with. For us, where we start is with our contracts. They sign a contract for the story arc. So for Tilt, Joe signed it for issues 1 through 4. That's our first story arc. For Daniel on One Last Job, he signed 1 through 4. That's the full miniseries. So we try to do it in chunks just to kind of secure ourselves. What Matt and I have realized, though, a lot of our friends do contracts, but as publishers and as writers, because if you guys out there don't know, typically the writer's the one that's hiring everybody. But they never hold people accountable to the contract. We've noticed this a lot in the indie comic small press world. We let artists, colorists kind of just do whatever they want, and they'll be like, I'm going through some mental stuff. I need to take a month off and take a break. Okay, well, that's cool. But then another month comes around and it's like, did you ever come back to work on stuff? And they'll be, I'm going to, take another month off. And this happens a lot. And then we know
it drives me crazy. Like, I want to.
Well, then we know other.
Be good.
Yes, I want to. When I have something that I know I want to knock out, I can't stop until it's done, or it's just going to wreak havoc on my brain. But we know creators that get burnt out, and we do understand that. We try to be as understanding as possible. But at the end of the day, this is a business as well for us that are publishers. For instance, this year, our entire timeline got thrown off because we shouldn't even be doing One Last Job 2 right now. That was going to be the beginning of next year. We should have been finishing up Tilt 4 back in June. We wanted to launch that, and then we should be working on. Yeah, and then Paradigm 2 should have been what we're doing right now, but stuff kind of got pushed so far behind through all kinds of different circumstances that we kind of had to revamp what we were planning, and that's why we're doing One Last Job 2 now. And we're only doing 2 campaigns this year, which for us is crazy. But it's given us a lot of time this year to step back, look at our marketing, where we're putting our time that we don't need to invest time, and then where we need to put more time. So stick to the contracts, and maybe we should start holding people more accountable to what they sign their name to.
It goes. I think it even goes further into that, because one of the things that I think needs to also happen with this is that I think messages have to be sent, and I think that you don't have to make it. I don't think all of this should be made public,
right?
Because I don't think that's professional. I've seen that happen in indie comic groups where people have gone and started doing things.
Yes.
And that should not be happening either.
No.
So, I mean, I think the entire indie community, and I'm an observer, the only reason why I have a stake in any of this is because I would say 70% of my interviews are indie comic creators right now. And so, obviously, I want this thing to do better because I want better people in this, and that's my stake in it. So when I see contract disputes going on online, it creates a bigger problem.
Yes.
I do think people need to be held accountable. It's the same thing with showing up, because I think if all of a sudden you have a contract with an artist and then you sort of enforce it, that artist is going to be like, okay, now I'm being treated more serious. They're being elevated because it's a serious issue. And then that translates over to me, because now an artist is going to be, oh, I booked an interview, but I don't really feel like doing it today. Because that happens all the time with me. And so now if contracts are enforced, I think what's going to happen is people are actually going to show up for interviews as well. Not because it's contractual, but they're going to say, oh, this is serious now. There's a list. This year I've implemented a new policy where I have 2 policies where if you cancel within 6 hours of me, you go into an emergency list. you are now on an emergency list, or you're not going to be hit up for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point, is that if I have an opening and I have an emergency opening and I can't find somebody, I'll hit you up, see if you're interested. But you're not going to be invited on so quickly. And I don't really care if you have an emergency, you're not feeling good, because I'm running something and I have sponsors, I have live reads, and I have a lot of other stuff going on. And so I think that this needs to be done a lot more. And I encourage that to happen. But I also think that it should not be public either.
No, all this stuff should be handled in a professional manner. And if it really is a true contract dispute, it should never be online, because you shouldn't do that for your own good. But if it's true contract dispute and it's to that level, then just bring it to court. Just get a lawyer. And that's what the contract was for, right? You're supposed to be trying to cover yourself in this event. And that was why you had them sign a contract. So it doesn't need to be public. If we ever have a contract dispute, nobody's ever going to hear about it. And on top of what we're talking about, I've seen it from all kinds of different creators. We know there's a campaign that I backed 3 years ago now, and I still don't have that book. And it's because the artist got picked up by one of the bigger companies and kept pushing this thing to the back burner. And now he's finally working on it, but you can tell he doesn't care about it anymore. So when he posts updated pages, it's just like, dude, these look awful. And then he hired somebody else to do the backgrounds, because he was like, I'm not going to do that stuff anymore either. And so this kind of stuff should be taken into consideration. I know another close friend of mine, she has a fantastic artist that does her books that had gotten picked up and went somewhere else. And so now every issue she ups her price a little bit. And we have somebody that's been doing that to us as well, where every issue it goes up a little bit.
I mean, no question about this. That, I mean, full disclosure, I am in the process of building out a Kickstarter, trying to work through it. I'm having some issues with just wording with Kickstarter, and I'm selling live reads, ad space, and other things that are sort of podcasty, and things that go with that. And you think the prices for season 3 funding are going to be the same as season 4? Of course not. Right. Things move up, naturally. And you think that my off Kickstarter ad prices on Buy Me a Coffee are going to be the same? No, they're going to go up, way more expensive than the Kickstarter, because that's what happens as people become more talented. But, obviously that's something that I think people need to understand. And also, it's tricky. Because
here's my point, though, when it comes to actually the just comic book creative side. For us, that's why we do a contract with a price on it for the series run, however long it's going to be. We're not doing 12-issue series, so you're fine. We're going to do probably 4 at the most, so you can be locked in for that, because it's going to be, 2 years of work maybe. But the reason I have a problem when people start upping their prices a little bit is because are you better than you were in the last book? But more importantly to us as a publisher, are you bringing more people into our campaign? Because that's why we started thinking about going forward when we have artists come in that want to up their prices. Okay, well, how about this is the goal for the campaign, and then you start getting a bonus when we hit these stretch goals, and that's how we'll pay you back.
It's also different, just to throw some more weight into that. It's also different if you say, look, I'm hiring a cover artist for 5 issues. A cover artist is a little bit of a different than interior art, where, you can't, if a cover artist all of a sudden gets really hot in, book 3, and they say, look, every year I'm going to be producing a cover, and statistically I'm going to get better, I'm going to up my price, and then you have a contract where in year 1, if they do a cover, it's X price, and then maybe it increases by 100, but you have it locked in, because that's a reasonable position to take on a cover. But, again, you could also have up prices where you could put a ceiling and a floor on it. And, obviously I just think that a lot of people in the comic world don't know how to do any of this, and they're really lazy, and they don't think. And I don't know if you saw my interview, I had Gamal Hennessy on, and obviously he's, the comic book lawyer in all these groups. And these are discussions that you really need to have if you're very serious. And if you're producing a 12-issue series, you should be talking about this. I mean, it's crystal clear that if you're just doing a cover and you're booking a cover, you don't need a complicated contract. But
Right.
if you're doing a 12-issue series, you do need a complicated contract. And
Yes.
also, if you're the artist, I mean, if you give me a contract for 4 issues, I mean, I want certain protections, knowing that when am I going to get paid for issue 3?
Yep.
When is my pay schedule? Is it that I send you 5 pages and then you send me the payment 5 pages? Is it that we do 12 pages at a time? What happens if issue 3 doesn't hit? Does that mean the contract becomes void, or does that mean you get the ability to retry this campaign twice? And there's a lot of stuff in there that's questionable. And then what happens if you guys abandon the project, but you locked me in, and I was expecting a certain amount of money? All that is in a contract. It doesn't just go protect the publisher. It protects you, the artist, because you're resorting to that time.
Exactly. It's built to protect anyone that's involved with the project, or it should be. An honest contract is built together with you and the other party, and it has as much detail and information as you need to protect both sides. And it's not because you don't trust each other, but we don't trust each other. I get it. So there's been people that get screwed over on both sides. We see it all the time. Like you said earlier, it's always on. If you ever want to feel bad about working in the industry, just go on one of those groups where artists and writers are together, because it's always chaos, typically every day.
It's very, very, very interesting, all of this. And obviously, I've never been in a situation where I don't have contracts with people. With my sponsor, make some, in full disclosure, there is no contract. But also, I'm not running away. It's pretty clear how to find me. And they can call me up. They have my number. They have my Facebook page. They have my website. So obviously, our arrangement, they paid up front, and I send them all my episodes every single week. And so it is crystal clear that stuff I'm not running away with. And even with my live reads, I'm not running away, where people know where to find me and my reputation, supersedes. But if all of a sudden I had a $5,000 deal, you're damn right I'm getting a contract.
Yep.
So not to get too controversial, but obviously when, you're dealing with a small amount of money, maybe you don't need a contract as much as if you're dealing with huge amounts of money.
I say if it involves money, make a contract. If it's a creative endeavor, better safe than sorry.
I mean, for me, I mean, my the way I do business, it's just not that way with my live reads and all that stuff, because a $10 live read, I'm not building a contract.
No. I'm talking like just creating a book. If you're at the point where you're creating a comic, or even like a short, then go ahead and contract it up. It's better for everybody.
Agreed. There's a reason why we have prenups in the U.S.
That's right.
And there's a reason why. It's not that you don't love your spouse. It's that if something goes wrong, most of the stuff, 80% of what you guys have together gets divided a certain way, and then you're fighting about a lot less money. And when you're fighting about a lot less money, people think really quickly, when all of a sudden you are worth $1 million and you're only fighting for $200,000, well, you're really going to go spend $700,000 to fight for $2 million.
Right.
Not saying you should get divorced. I'm just saying that's a good example. I would like people to work out their differences, and if you have marriage issues, you should work that out and figure out how to solve your problems. Is all I'm going to say. I'm rooting for everybody who has a marriage problem to fight it out. Go see a pastor. I don't know if you know one.
Yeah, I know some.
I figured you'd appreciate the joke. So obviously this is super, super controversial, and I love it. I love this discussion, and my show is becoming this way. I'm one of my guests on Sunday is going to be super controversial, but it's going to be a blast. I'm going to lose people on my page without a doubt for that interview, but it's going to be totally worth it. But I do like money, and so we're going to get to rewards in 1 second, but I do need to mention my friends and my friend who's coming on next week, LK Ingenio, who has a Kickstarter that launched yesterday. and it's about a telepathic vampiric cat in a Victorian town in the mid 1800s who just wants to eat. Meanwhile, a conflicted ex-colonel just wants to do the right thing, and pretty much what happens when he becomes enthralled to fame, and that is Fangs and Foul Plays is right now live on Kickstarter. You can check it out at fangsandfoulplay.com. It looks like an awesome book. If you are a fan of cats, you are a fan of nice stories that are a little bit dark and a little bit witty, and that's the book for you. And I am super excited to read it. I've actually read a preview copy of it, and I'm thrilled for it. And I happen to like cats. I think cats are amazing pets. I'm sorry to all the dog lovers. I do have a dog, though. I do have a dog, and she's a sweetheart, but I also like cats. So obviously, you can go check that out. I'm going to put it up in the comments, and it'll also be in a banner in a few seconds here. And so please go back that project because it is awesome. And LK Ingenio is an amazing anthology, I guess, quarterback, for lack of a better word, as well as an amazing comic writer. And she will get you amazing press in anything she touches. So obviously, enough about her. Please go back that project. And let's talk about your rewards, because a lot of stuff's going on with that.
Oh, yeah.
And let's get a little less controversial, because obviously we just got very controversial. So you have a bunch of stuff going on as far as a digital reward.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about that, because I happen to like digital a lot. And so, and I also like the fact that your digital reward is cheap. And so what is the theory behind that? Because my entire Kickstarter, for the most part, is going to be purely digital.
Yeah, our entire thought process on anything comic book related is get it into people's hands. We have a lot of friends lately that are just like base level tiers, $15. We're just not that kind of people.
That's steep.
In fact, yeah, if you look down a little bit, you can get every digital of everything we've made, including the short stories, for $15. So we just want it in people's hands. In January, the smartest thing we've done as a company so far is when people follow us on Instagram, they'll get a message from us that's like a welcoming message, and then, hey, here's a free download of Tilt #1. And then anyone that joins our email list, a free download of Tilt #1. That book will probably change out soon, and we'll do something different. But that was the smartest decision we've made so far, because it's grown our email list exponentially. And we want people to read our content. We don't want people to just, if they get a physical copy, we don't want them to just get it and lay it somewhere and forget about it. No, we want you to understand the story. We want you to read it and enjoy it and have fun with it and treat the book however you want to treat it. Buy 2 copies so you can have a pristine one.
Yeah, no. I think digital is very much a good way to go. For
Takes up less space.
I'm a huge comicsology fan. It costs me $6.37 every single month. It is well worth it because I read about 15 graphic novels a month now, and I'm reading things that I normally wouldn't read. So I'm a big WWE fan. For those who are not know too much about me, I love wrestling, and I read all their graphic novels. I'm a huge Zenescope fan. But then I'm reading things like, The Black Dahlia, which is a comic book that sort of is a little bit about what happened with that case, and then reimagining it and sort of going down paths that might have happened. And obviously, I don't own it, but it's digital and it's great. So I like the fact that you have digital issue 2, you have a digital 1 and 2. You also have the physical of issue 2 as well for those who back issue 1 and already have a physical and they don't want it. And then I think you have the physical and digitals of issues 1 and 2. And what I like about your campaign versus other people, because I back projects, I don't know if you have, is that if I back a physical, they want to charge me another $5 for a digital copy. And I just think that on a personal level is wrong.
Right. So for us, we don't look at things like that. Like I said, it's more important for us for people to read this stuff. This is my 7th comic book, so I don't have the clout of large mainstream creators. So I don't try to pretend that I do. I try to be as humble about it as I can. People enjoy it when they read it, and that's all I can ask for, So now we just try to do cool stuff throughout our rewards, and there's some links on that Kickstarter that have people unboxing the first issue, because with this series we do some really crazy special stuff with the unboxing process. Last time it was a postcard that had a encoded message on the back, and there were some people that got spot UV messages. We had the full dossier, and the whole thing came in a classified file. And then this time we get to step it up again.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because obviously there's some really cool things that happen with issue 1, with some people got really cool messages, and obviously some books are easier than others to do that with. If you're doing a spy thing, having spot UBA and having secret messages, or having to decode something, or having even like a secret message, that's easier with something like a spy book. If you're doing the Wizard of Oz and you're doing a play on that, it's a little bit harder to do that with, because some things don't flow. But even just the creativeness of that, because one of the things that I find is that I find a lot of comic people to be some of the most creative people in building a story and writing something and coming up with an idea and mixing and matching something, combining things that shouldn't exist, like the mecha version of the Wizard of Oz. Actually, nobody's done that. That's my idea. So please don't take it. Having Dorothy in a Gundam-like robot fighting the Wicked Witch and in another Gundam-like robot is awesome. The Yellow Brick Road is in space to Jupiter. It'll be phenomenal. Or Neptune, it makes sense because Neptune's sort of green.
Yeah, there you go.
We're writing a comic book live here. But the idea is that I find that, what is that like for you? Because when people aren't creative, it's like when I get a Kickstarter, for me, it's enjoyable. Like I'm like, oh man, where is it coming? I want to see what this book looks like. And like I'm getting quite frustrated. There's about 10 Kickstarters that I'm waiting for that they're having printing issues. So I don't know what that means exactly.
I can tell you.
but what's killing me is that I backed this like 4 months ago, and I'm like, I want a book because this is enjoyable. It's like Christmas for me. I'm opening up something I bought for that I paid for a while ago, and I got no problem. But I'm like, hey, I'm waiting for this. And this is supposed to be like a gift for me. I get very excited to see what it looks like, and then I take a picture and I want to put it on Twitter, and I want to put it on Instagram, and I want to show that I got a cool book. And I want to bag and board it and protect it, and then I want to open it up and hear the pop sound. And when somebody goes and makes a cool package for me and does something clever, that just adds to it. And I think it's another step. But a lot of people, I feel, don't do that. I feel like a lot of people are lazy.
Yeah, there's nothing more discouraging to me than when I back something and it comes in just a media mail envelope, especially if it was something I was really excited about. I understand shipping costs money, but there's ways to get it lower, guys, without having to sacrifice your packaging. I can't tell you how many comic books I've got in the mail that came in envelopes that were messed up. And I'll message the creator and be like, look, this is how it came. Because I'm a creator too, so I feel like I have the right to do that. And I think consumers should do it too. If we send you,
I get an answer from somebody and they're not getting my money ever.
That's exactly what I was about to say. If somebody gets a package from Catalyst Comics and it's messed up, you better let us know, because we're going to make it right. And especially if it's messed up from us, then I don't know what happened, because we use Gemini mailers, and the last time we had to use actual boxes. But we wanted to make it special. We wanted to bring you into this world. And so when people, like the videos that I put on there, when people unboxed that and saw like this dossier and all this classified information, and then a redacted letter from Matt and I at Catalyst, people got excited. And seeing that reaction, that's enthralling for us. So then we're like, what do we do to make it better? And so this time we have something crazy. The FBI didn't come knocking at our door last time when we were sending people encoded postcards. So hopefully they won't this time, because we're doing something a little bit more wild than that.
Well, if they do, you have a simple solution for it for issue 3.
That's right.
Fulfilling it and putting it up and then handing them a copy of your book.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, so we have fun with that process too. We think it should be a thing.
Because again, because on Kickstarter, and I don't know if you're in retail yet, but there are books going to retail. So obviously I like certain people. I have good friendships with certain people in the industry, like Larry Higgins from Niobe Comics. Obviously me and him have a decent relationship, and I got no problem spending $30 with him, even though I know when that book goes into retail, it's going to be $5, and
Yeah.
that it won't be the big cover. It'll be a regular cover. It'll be, obviously at a much cheaper price point. But I'm like, hey man, I want those extras. I want to support you. I want to
Exactly.
also, you can go a little bit of an extra mile to come up with a cool package. Throw a Niobe sticker onto the package, or write something on the package if you can, or get, custom built packaging, or even custom tape. I used to have Hello Kitty duct tape. So do something at least somewhat fun so I see a little effort, or, one of the things that if I have physical rewards, what I want to do is I want to get some funky stamps, because that at least makes it fun. It at least shows a little bit of effort, and there are ways to do that. And even if it costs me, I lose $50 overall on a big campaign, and I did like $8,000 on a campaign, and I gave up $50 in the long run. In the short run, I think it'll go a long way. Or a thank you note. I don't know.
Yep.
You know Chuck Pino and Sean Barber, right?
Yeah, of course.
So what Sean did is that he put a personal sticky note in every single one of his back things. So the packaging wasn't pretty, but I'm reading it, and this is the first time, and it was personalized to a bunch of people who we knew. And I'm like, wow, this actually made me feel really good as a human being. And I felt like, oh my God, like somebody actually put something in there and a little note saying, hey, you're a badass interviewer. And I'm like, wow, that actually means something. And it makes me, when they have their next book, I'm going to be dropping real money on that. I mean, I might drop $50 on that, even though I don't need to. It's like, for me, that's where I think creators drop the ball.
Yeah. So, Kickstarter, the idea behind it is that it should be exclusive. It should be things that you can't get. Like you said, the books, because we are in retail now. We distribute it through Maverick distribution. And yeah, the books aren't going to be as expensive. Well, I don't know. Ours aren't expensive on our campaign, but we try to make it where it's an experience when you receive that package. And, like I said, when people unboxed the last one, they didn't know that they were getting all that extra classified information and like a dossier, postcard, all that. They didn't know that stuff was coming. It's just extra stuff that we wanted to put in there that we thought elevated the story. And then we're going to do the same thing going forward. Not with just One Last Job, but anything else we do, just because we appreciate people. Because if you're backing us on Kickstarter, you're not just buying a book; you're actually helping us create the product. So that's special to us.
It goes even further because you're not just helping creating One Last Job. Obviously, this is what people don't understand, and this goes into my Kickstarter. If you back me when I get my Kickstarter running, you're not just backing the podcast or the Facebook Live. What you're saying is that maybe Andrew is doing okay and he's growing slowly, but maybe in another 300 interviews, he's going to get to the next level. And so, you're getting me and helping me get to the next level, the next interview, the next month, the next month, the next month. And all of a sudden, and I say this and it's going to come out somewhat offensive, but let's say that One Last Job isn't your best work. And maybe your best work hasn't come out, but you need to write a lot of books. I happen to like One Last Job, but I'm using it as an example. Let's say that all of a sudden you need to write a lot of comics so that you finally find the superstar and the home run and like the best thing that you've produced. And you might have to go through 3 or 4 titles to find that. And if you back One Last Job, that's just one step closer to that, to find that next sweet spot. And
well, yeah, it's a conversation like we had with one of our buddies, Doug Wagner. He wrote Plastic, and that was his big thing, and people loved it. To this day, they still love it.
I love that book.
His new,
great book.
Yeah, his new series Vinyl's out. But there's a time period after he wrote Plastic, right? And he wrote more books then, and he even told us, he was like, none of them did anywhere close to as good as Plastic. And he said, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter because he knew he was still pushing himself as a creator. And he knew that the more you write, the more people will find stuff to connect to. And it's the same way for me writing. I'm not writing in one genre. I'm just writing stories I want to tell, and I want people to check out and see if they vibe with. You never know which thing's going to be the thing. We didn't think that One Last Job 1 was going to do what it did. We didn't think it was going to be 177 backers, which is way more than our highest stuff before. And then even now, One Last Job 1 and 2, where we're sitting right now is higher than we were with One Last Job 1 at this point. So it's encouraging, and it's encouraging to go in there and see names that have been backing us since our first campaign and see that they're still sticking with us. And some of them we don't get to talk to, or they don't respond. They just want the stuff. And then we also get encouraged when we see new names of people we don't know, because these are new people that we're like, let's show you why we put effort into this package and why we put effort into our creation.
It's interesting because I know people who back projects and they're like, look, we enjoy hearing the creator talk, but we're shy. We don't want to have conversations. And look, I mean, it took me a long time where I used to have a hard time asking people for interviews, because it's like, also the idea is that there is very much a divide. It's very hard, for people to understand when you're in a position of a divide of saying, hey, do I even have the right to ask said person a question? And even though, even with me, I mean, this is a crisis I'm having, is that am I an equal at the table because I'm not a comic creator, but I'm involved in the industry? And that's a real question where, obviously I don't know what it's like to write a book and go through that entire process and paying out of pocket to get to the level of Kickstarter. I don't know that position, but I sure as hell understand a lot of the process of writing. And, I obviously have written a lot of things in my life and published, self-published on my website, and now I'm in the process of figuring out Kickstarter. But I also, when you speak to almost 500 comic creators in a very short amount of time, you get insight into the entire business. So it's a very interesting question for me, where am I an equal with certain people? And I don't know the answer to that question, because I am obviously a party in that question, and somebody else has to sort of give me the answer. Now, I could very well be that I'm not an equal, but then again, you could also not be an equal as an interviewer to me in that same regard, or you can be. It's a very complicated question when people are considered equals and when they're not, and when their opinion carries weight and when their opinion doesn't. But when I do have conversations with people about business acumen in comics, it's a very different discussion. Yeah. So I don't think I could tell a writer and be a writer doctor on this. And I think that's where people get on Kickstarter, is that's where communication falls with some people who don't.
I agree. Yeah, I feel similar in the sense of I do host a weekly show. I don't do as many interviews as you, and then we also backed off from having other people on, and it's more about what things are going on, like what it's like actually being on the creative side, publishing. And I used to ask myself that question too, of when I would ask somebody if I could interview them, I would think about like, oh, well, they're not going to respect me because I'm not at that level. And then people started saying yes. And so at some point you're just like, well, screw it. I'm just going to keep asking people if they'll do it. And we've had some great guests and made new friends and stuff. And so I think the question's flawed, because really just keep talking to people. That's all we're doing, right? We're just having a conversation right now. I used to be that way too with celebrities and stuff, where it was like, man, it'd be so off-putting to meet them. But then at some point you're like, oh wait, no, they're just a normal person too. But yeah, I don't know. It's just where I'm at now.
No, it's weird for me because I'm also in the last 10 weeks have gone through a lot of hyper growth. And when you're going through hyper growth, I mean, it is an insane position where I legitimately started my sponsorship almost, I want to say, maybe 11 weeks ago. And in that 11 weeks, a lot of infrastructure has been built, and it's just been a mad dash in the last 11 weeks. A lot of stuff's been going on, a lot of things. And so it's super interesting. But no, I just think it's so interesting because I listen to everybody else become like, oh shit, I gotta step up my game. So I'm like, I think I'm doing well, and like clearly, like everybody else is like slaying dragons. I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta step up my game, and it's crazy, and that's how I feel. So it's like, and I'm figuring it out. I mean, I got a week coming up where I got 6 interviews, which is gonna be crazy, and I've written none of them yet. That's gonna be a fun one. I'm looking forward to writing all 6 of them. I don't think it's gonna be hard though. I'm also having a cosplay week in a lot of ways. I have like 3 cosplayers coming out, so that's going to be a blast.
Okay.
But getting back to your rewards.
Yep.
So obviously you get all of the digital catalysts very cheaply as well. You get book 2 stickers and trading cards. Obviously poster. There's a t-shirt package. So that's not the image I want. That's obviously issue 1, issue 2 right there. This is the image I want, where we got a t-shirt. I don't have your second design up, but obviously I think there's the poster in there, trading card, some stickers, obviously One Last Job 1, One Last Job 2, and then you got a really cool reward with this thing right here.
Yeah,
and
man.
This is in my neighborhood of what I like. So
I knew you were going to say something about this. I know you well enough already. We wanted to do. I know how you are with covers, but we wanted to do something special with One Last Job 1, since we figured, with it being just the issue 2, there were people that missed out on issue 1, and we still have the normal copies, but we thought, man, this would be a good time for us to do our first holochrome and do a limited print run. So this is going to be limited to only the people on Kickstarter that back it, and then however many extra we print, because Matt and I are going to want our own anyway. But yeah, it's not going to be something that's available in shops, and except for a couple of shops that we have partnership with. They'll probably get like a comp copy or whatever. But yeah, it's going to be extremely limited print run. We're going to do a certificate of authenticity, and we're going to sign and number them as well.
And so to talk about that a little bit, because one of the things that irks me on Kickstarter is I hate and I despise when, and look, I get some aspects of it, but if I back a Kickstarter, what I want ultimately from a value and also from a fan perspective is I don't want that issue, if it's an exclusive, to ever be reprinted. I don't even want your extras to be sold on another Kickstarter, because it deflates the value of what I have.
Yeah.
It makes me feel rubbed wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And even I want exclusivity. The whole point of me backing on Kickstarter is that I don't mind if, say, I'm only printing 150 of these books. I get that element of things.
Yep.
That I get. And then if you have in your next Kickstarter 15 of them left and you're selling the 15, I get that. But at the same time, I've seen people print a lot of books of a particular thing, and in the next 6 Kickstarters, they have it in their add-ons. And it irks me. And even if I see it in a comic shop, or even if I see it at your booth like 6 months later, it irks me a little bit, or even like a year later, it irks me, because how does that make, it makes me feel weird, and it also makes me feel underappreciated.
Right. So for us, it's there's a lot of times, I want to say with the Welcome to Everville Black, White, and Red one, we did 100 copies. Well, we didn't have 100 people that got it. But we had those extra ones, so some family got them. We kept some to hang up on our walls. And then the other ones we brought to shows, and we sold them all within the first show. And we did charge more for them. So we actually charged more than what people on Kickstarter purchased them for. So we kind of flipped it the other way, right?
Because you've seen, there was a famous Indiegogo where, and I think you know who this is. This is a very famous case on the Indiegogo scene in Kickstarter, where somebody ordered more stock and they were selling their Indiegogo books at half off of what the people paid on Kickstarter like a month later. And they were trying to recoup their money, and I understand that from a business, because I have undersold books just because I needed to get out of bad positions. I've undersold Pop Funkos on that case as well. And sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose them. But that was a very, very rough position. And I haven't seen too much of that. But I've seen stuff like that before, and that kills me inside a little bit. And I didn't back those projects either that did that.
For our basic covers, we can print as much as we want. We still do limit them, I will say that. So for us with Tilt 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's going to be the complete first arc. Well, we're getting ready to do Tilt 4 at the beginning of next year. At that point, when that campaign's fulfilled, we're not printing any more of 1, 2, 3, or 4. We're going to move it into a trade. So if you don't have the singles, are bad. We do have to do a reprint for issue 2 because we ran out, and we need to have enough to fill the last campaign, or issue 4's campaign that's not come yet. But when it comes to stuff like the holochrome or like special covers, stuff like that, we do as limited as we possibly can.
And I think that that's super important because obviously, you know, I come from this as an investor. I come at this also from saying, hey, look, if I'm paying a premium, I want exclusivity. I want some protections. And I don't want, you know,
we even do that with like our T-shirts, you know, that Tedeschi Private Flights. You're not going to get that off of Kickstarter. It's not going to be a product that we carry. And then there's 2 other T-shirts I actually added on there just before the show. And there's a Catalyst Arcade style, and then a One Last Job, the first cover. And I wanted to do something a little bit weird and a little bit different. So they're add-on only. So if you don't get them in the add-on, you're not going to get them. And we're charging $18 a piece for them, but we're not adding any shipping to it. So that's less than most designer shirts. And I put a little thing on the bottom where anybody adds on a T-shirt, they're going to get a flash fiction story from Beth that's centered around her, who's the spy in the first one, and she's that really cool chick that killed a bunch of people.
So is that for an add-on of a T-shirt, or is that also if you get the T-shirt package?
Yeah, so I think I was going to do it as just if you did an add-on, but I think I'm going to do it, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it, and I'll put it in an update. Part of me wants to do it just as an add-on because then it's going to be an extremely limited number of people that get to read this flash fiction story.
I figured I would ask because I saw it and I was just like not copying it because I was really lazy about my pictures.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I'm still deciding. I don't know. Depends on how exclusive I feel like making it, right?
And then obviously, I mean, exclusivity always changes. You never know what's going to happen with the trade paperback and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, things go complicated with that. I know because things are interesting. So having said all that, also spy name, you can have your name as a spy. That's always a fun one.
So, yeah, because, you know, there's always the getting drawn into an issue in a lot of campaigns. Well, we can't really do that because of the style of book that this is. But I wanted to do something cool. And so I don't know if I even put it on there, but if you guys have seen the movie Smokin' Aces, the kind of opening credits of the different characters, that kind of like real flash name or whatever with their kind of silhouette or whatever, that's exactly what I'm doing because we had this on the first campaign. So we're working on that right now in the second issue of getting all these spy names in there. And then I'm using these spy names as spies that Thomas has to kind of go through to get to where he's going. So I didn't just do it where it's your name. You get to pick what name I put in there. So we had a guy do Max Mulligan. We had a guy do like Colonel Sanders or just some crazy stuff like that. And so it's a lot of fun for me too to find ways to put this in there.
Yeah, getting because I have a very interesting thing like this, and this isn't a new idea. It's just how to reimagining it. My idea, which I don't want to talk about on air, because some people are going to love it and some people are going to hate it. It's going to be copied too by I think a lot of people. My idea, but it's a adaptation of this. And so obviously I think it's really cool and I think it's creative because sometimes you can't draw somebody into a book.
Yes.
And also drawing people into books can be a pain in the ass in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's what we're going through with Tilt 4 right now, actually, is, you know, Tilt has to take on a whole bunch of mercenaries. Well, everyone that bought that tier to get drawn in, not one of them looked like a mercenary. And so we're like, we're going to have to revamp this a little bit and figure out a different way to have them in there.
Also,
because
most people are not like me, because if I ever bought one of those tiers, and obviously right now I'm stabilizing myself somewhat financially,
yeah,
but I'm also going to be viewing it very different because I view it as ad space.
yes, yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of what we did with the names too. You know, as you give us what name you want, and we'll put it in there, because we know like one guy that did it, the name that he put in there is something that really kind of identifies him. And so it's just a fun way for us to play with that.
So, I mean, I view things very differently, and even creativity wise, this
Mm-hmm.
is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand in the entire comic world, is that there's a million ways how to get creative. I don't know if you and me were talking about this the last time about where Hellboy's first appearance was.
No, I don't think that was us.
So I had this conversation with somebody, and I don't know if you know where Hellboy's first appearance was.
Nope.
It was in Sin City.
Okay.
Hellboy's first appearance was on a poster in Sin City.
Hmm.
So Mike Mignolia, I think is his name, how it's pronounced, I think paid Frank Miller money to put a poster of, Hellboy in Sin City. And think about that, and like one of the issues, a really popular issue, everybody sees your character, and then when Hellboy
Right.
comes out, it's massive, just like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant marketing. Probably cost maybe Mike like $100. Frank
Yep.
might have used them for free. It's the idea that you present an idea to somebody, and well, if you're really smart at understanding things, there you go. I'm just saying, I have a cute little elf, and she's a very fierce mercenary. So I'm just saying that's one way how to go about things.
Yeah.
And then obviously, have you hit stretch goals yet or no?
No, we have to hit minimum funding first. I do have a few things. So the stretch goals, we're doing kind of book centric things because we realize people want more out of that rather than just like, hey, we're going to give you some buttons. Some people care about that. Most people would rather have more to the book. So we're going to do those director's cuts of 1 and 2. I forgot what the third stretch goal was. And then
that's an interesting question, because I'm in the camp of the following, where I want more content,
mm-hmm.
and also I want things like, I use magnets very much. I like magnets. I like metal cards. I don't care about mini prints. I don't care about pins. I don't care about buttons. Now, if you got me a bottle opener, that would be dope.
Yeah,
because that's useful to me.
It's so user specific, because like, no, I'm saying user specific in the sense of what people want and what people. It's a hard thing to balance when it comes to a Kickstarter.
Everybody needs a bottle opener.
Yeah, but like what you just said, you don't like pins. Well, pins is a massive market right now. So for us, like with Tilt, we had to, and with having a Chibi Neverling, it just made so much more sense. That's how we bumped everyone up a tier.
I hate pins.
I'm not a personal fan.
I hate them. I refuse to do pins. I refuse. You can't pay me. In fact, I will pay you not to do pins. I despise pins. Okay, because the problem is that I have a bunch already from like fan set, and because Zenoscope sends me a bunch of them, and then it's just like, I don't know what to do now, and then I try to sell them on eBay, and I can't get any money for it, and it's a useless item for me. Playing cards are useful, magnets are useful for me, metal cards. I actually have a metal card connection. Trading cards are good. Having a mini print for me does nothing for me. Having a pin does nothing for me. It goes into a metal lunchbox that I have. And, that's why I like content, but I also like bottle openers, because I throw a bottle opener into my kitchen cabinet, and then my friends come over to me and say, hey, Andrew, let's open up a beer. And boom, I throw them the bottle opener, and everybody's happy.
Right.
So,
no, I get it.
For me, I like practical items, or I like ridiculous items. Like somebody sent me a yo-yo. That was dope. It's a cheap yo-yo, and I haven't played with a yo-yo in years.
Just doing random. I also like sending random dumb stuff. Like the last campaign, the day one back rule was a fake mustache, and people freaking loved it. And then this one, it's flight wings, just like little plastic golden flight wings.
Oh, I think it's stupid.
Just because why not? exactly. People see it and they're just like, well, that's dumb. I love it.
Oh, I love dumb things, and don't get me wrong. I mean, but I don't need trinkets anymore. What I want is
Yeah.
I want useful items.
I am not a fan of the mini prints anymore either. I'm tired of getting them. I have no place to put them. But we still have a lot of people that ask for these freaking posters, like 11 by 17 posters. And so we make a tier that has an 11 by 17 poster. And, it doesn't cost us much. So if you trash it, you trash it. Keep what you want, whatever. It doesn't make a difference to
Oh,
us.
don't get me wrong. When I backed Merc magazine by Jamie Tyndall, I backed at a $20 pledge because there was a Dalmatine that I loved, and in that he reached like $85,000. It's the idea that he sent me an 11 by like 19 print. Now I know it didn't cost him that much money to produce. I have an idea how much that stuff costs. It's not that expensive to produce.
Yeah.
Things. But he still had to pay Ash Matty for it. He still had to pay for serious money. I mean, it wasn't that it was free. I mean, it wasn't the printing cost. It was the printing cost plus like 50 cents when you actually view people's art costs. But he also had to it up the shipping. It upped a lot of stuff because he shipped it in a box. I mean, at that point, it's a very different entity. So it probably cost him about $4 collectively to do that. Send that to me. But I then added on another book to it because I thought it was great. So obviously, but it's super fascinating. But I am not a trinket guy. My campaign is purely digital because I think digital is king. I want as little overhead as possible.
Yeah, and that's kind of why those first 3 stretch goals, they're all digital rewards. So you get the digital director's cut of 1, the digital director's cut of 2, the 3-page preview of issue 3. But I have one that's not on there, and it's if we were to hit 4,500, and that's just everyone that gets a physical book is going to get the Ashcan copy of it as well, because people are really into Ashcans right now, and I think they're dope too. They take up a lot less space.
Oh, I think Ashcans are fun as well. I mean, I like Ashcans. I mean, I'm not a huge, like, I need to have this Ashcan now type guy, but if I'm getting one or if it's cheap enough, I'll buy an Ashcan.
Right.
But that's just me. But I get it, too, why people love them and hate them. It's whatever. Ashcans, though, could be really valuable because Ashcans.
They can. If you guys have Ashcans, you should just hold on to them. Put them somewhere. Store them.
The older ones, you should get them created because there's real money in that stuff because they were not supposed to be saved. And that's why they're valuable.
Exactly.
So if you have Ashcans from like really old books from like 30 years ago, well, you might be able to flip them for some good money. But I digress right there. Obviously, we covered a lot of stuff. And there's a million other things that I could talk to you about the next 4 hours. But I have work tomorrow. And what I mean by work is actual real work. Learning really cool skills, and I thoroughly enjoy my job. But I have to be up at 9 o'clock, and I am not used to that. I'm learning that my commute is very difficult. I don't think people understand that I roll out of my bed, and then I have to walk. And I make a pit stop in the bathroom. And then, after I make the pit stop in the bathroom, I have to dash a little groggy at a very slow pace, almost walking like, to the kitchen to get my Monster Energy drink. And then I slowly make my way. I make a corn muffin. And what I mean by make is pull it out of the refrigerator, eat it, and I sit down at my work laptop in the kitchen, which is approximately 75 feet away from my bedroom, and there we go. So that's my commute. It's tough commute.
Yeah.
I'm not used to it. My old commute used to be 50 feet away.
Lord.
It's a tough commute. I'm not used to it. I'm very much out of shape. And I gotta go hit the gym. Get those few extra feet on the treadmill going. Build up my endurance.
Don't skip leg day.
I'll call in sick,
Yeah. Right.
I'm sorry, boss. I can't get out of my bed. I understand, Andrew. I understand. I'm in my bed, too. But anyway, having said all that, joking aside, this would have been a perfect time for a live read by Monster Energy, but they're not paying me, so they don't get that privilege. But I do want to talk about everything that's sort of going on in the comic world. And obviously a lot of stuff's happened in the last 3 months. And since we last spoke, obviously COVID is still a disaster.
Yep.
No question about that. And it's complicated because, well, we had New York Comic Con light. But obviously still out there, COVID. Nobody really knows what's going on with it. I know people are getting their third boosters, not to get political. So I'm curious how you feel about COVID and where you stand on it as far as going to cons and even the market and the shift of it and even how to sort of sell books, because things aren't going well per se. And then it sort of leads into bigger issues where there are paper shortages. I mean, Image has announced that they're not doing second print runs on certain books because there's no printing, not to mention that we obviously spoke about how there's people who said they had printing delays. I was supposed to get a book last August that is now being shipped out in 2 weeks from now, in November. And I'm not very thrilled with that creator. And obviously I have a printing company that is a sponsor, so I'm well aware of what's going on. But at the same time, I mean, that's a long wait.
Again, I'm 3 years past the date of one of the ones that I backed. So
you could tell who it is because it's not going to hurt me.
No, it hurt me.
you could say the name. I don't care.
No, I'm saying it would hurt me, clout wise, because these are people that people know. But anyway,
I call things like I see it. I got no problem telling it like I see it.
Yeah, well, I got to continue my career.
See, my career is indestructible at this point.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that claim. As far as the COVID stuff, though, we hadn't been doing a lot of shows. I think we've done one this year. It's one. And then we did like a couple of local shop days. So it wasn't going to be a heavy year for us anyway. Where I live here in North Carolina, you have to be very picky about what shows you're even worth going to in the first place beyond the COVID thing. And at least the last one that we went to, they let us host a panel on comic book creation. So we got to do that and it was a lot of fun. But we're only looking at like maybe 2 shows next year too. If they still have them, because who knows? I mean, this stuff has been up and down the whole time. So I know a lot of stuff that we had been looking at got closed back down this year. So
and even talking about, going further into this, because obviously I'm very attuned into the economics of everything that's going on. And I mean, going into November, December, obviously my money's tightening up because I'm buying gifts for my family and all that stuff. So naturally, I'm not backing Kickstarters.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of friends who are launching Kickstarters. I'm going to be very, very polite with them and say, look, you picked a wrong month to launch it.
Dude, that is why I did a 28-day, and I want to make sure it ended before Thanksgiving hit.
Why do you think I'm upset about my Kickstarter problem? I'm well aware of it, and I don't have a choice because my show is launching back up on January 4th. Mm-hmm. Like, I can maybe delay till January 10th, but I'm screwed either way. Like, I got to just get through it, and it messes the marketing plan up. But I can tell everybody, not to cut it off, is that if a bunch of people pay and then a bunch of people don't, I'm going to be straight up say, look, if you want into this thing, I'll offer you the same deal. You got to buy in. If you ask me, it's nothing personal, but it's unfair in the environment, which I think makes sense. But I mean, I'm well aware. So even economically, I would imagine that right now for the next 2 months, it's going to be rough, just comic-wise, because money's a lot tighter. Just at this time of the year.
Yeah, it's already a tight time of the year. We've noticed a lot of our friends lately, they've been either not funding or funding a lot less than they were on previous things. I think there's a lot that plays into that. With people's money being in different situations this point in the year than it was earlier in the year. The job stuff still going on. Some people still aren't back at work. So there's a lot of things that play against the creative side right now, and being understanding of that is great. And that's why we are glad that we have options like that $15 tier. I mean, if you just want to read some comics, That's a lot of comics for $15. And even if you don't, then just go get Tilt. #1 is free. So, I mean, we try to give people options to consume content however we can.
And obviously, I mean, printing is going to be a disaster.
Yes.
For the next, it's not just now. It's going to be for the next 8 months. I'm just to give people insight. I had Santi Phoenix and her husband on, and we were talking about this. And they had a book that came out before Santine's book came out. It's a D&D book, and Dungeons and Dragons. Before anybody gets any naughty thoughts, I know what everyone was thinking, and I know what you were thinking. I know exactly where your mind was going.
I knew it was Dungeons and Dragons.
Just because you want to save the elf does not mean that's wrong.
Joe?
So having said that, though, what they were talking about is that they had a book that came out before that, and they couldn't find a shipping container to get their book into the States from China, and their book was sitting in a warehouse for a month. So the book was printed, and it was sitting in a warehouse, and that's a big issue where I guarantee you there are going to be projects that are going to be sitting on somebody's computer in a queue for printing that they're going to be like, hey, we got no paper, or paper's more expensive. I mean, I know how much exactly it costs, and which had Mixum about a month and a half ago was $500 cheaper to print your comic, and it's $500 more. I know exactly how much it costs to do a book now. I'm well aware, and I've never produced one, and I may or may not be doing it if somebody buys a certain tier of mine. But it's kind of crazy. So I'm curious how you view the state of Kickstarter going in the next year, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of projects still on Kickstarter. You know, there's the issue of, is this even a viable business option at this point, given that printing is going up, materials are going up, artists want more money. There might be, you know, less people who have money. Also, there might be more people who have $5, but you need those higher echelons. You need a quality backer in a lot of ways. And so you need somebody who's willing to spend, you know, $50, $60, $100 in a lot of ways, because while you might have 500 small backers, you do need those bigger backers. And it's very rare that people have 500 backers on a Kickstarter.
Who you tell? Yeah, no, it's an interesting state of the market right now. A lot of campaigns just finished, so all of them are going to be printing at some point. So I don't know what exactly it will look like, and I think everybody's just going to wait and see what happens when it's time to go to print, right? Because there's nothing else you can do. I mean, unless we figure out a way to print ourselves and start using bamboo. Or print on toilet paper. I don't know. Well,
or what needs to happen is that there needs to be, you know, it almost has to break out into where you have, you know, not everybody can use comic wellspring, mix some kablam, because if everybody's going to the top 5 out of the group, all of a sudden what happens is that they get overwhelmed.
Yes.
And if you're printing a book in a small run at your Staples, you know, you might be able to get that book out a lot quicker. You have a local print shop that's, you know, Kinko's, for instance, and you can figure out how to get it cheaper. You know, all of a sudden you might.
Well, that stuff like that is great for ash cans. So even if it gets to the point where we can't do great things, Joe. Even if you can't do things like doing full books for a minute, at least we could probably put out a bunch of ash cans.
Well, whoever Joe works for, I should steal him. You know, and create a contract.
He's the artist on Tilt.
That's why I said it. That's exactly why I said it.
Hey, he's not exclusive to us. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting state right now. I'm not sure how it's going to play out.
And then to even go further into this, do you even think Kickstarter is sustainable? Because that's my question.
No.
Where, okay, that answers it.
I mean, I know a lot of people might not like that I say that. We've always kind of, Matt and I have always kind of held the ideology that our business plan is not Kickstarter. However, we see its utilization right now for us. Our goal, of course, is to get off of there. There's a lot of people that never want to get off Kickstarter. They think it's the only thing that matters, and becoming the Kickstarter god is the only thing that matters. And to be honest, I don't know how much it's going to elevate your career, because you're still not getting it into the hands of people that are actually going to help you elevate that career, because that plays into a whole lot of other side of marketing than just Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a whole different conversation. I'm sure you and me are
for sure. Yeah. But yeah, we don't plan to stick to crowdfunding. Like I said, we just see its utilization right now, and I could see in the future using it to kickstart new titles, and then moving them off of there for subsequent titles.
I also think that Kickstarter very much has an application where, also, if you're doing a graphic novel, it might make sense to do it on Kickstarter. So if you do one new title, throw it out on Kickstarter, get some stragglers on Indiegogo, and then do issues 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then say, hey, we're back for the trade paperback. And then or maybe what you do is that you weave in and out, where you might do issues 1 on Kickstarter, issues 2 and 3 are not there, and then you do issue 4, and the whole purpose is that you're using Kickstarter as a booster versus
and it just comes down to how you can manage the money to pay for that much stuff to get done, right? But there's ways to do that, of course. That just all comes down to budgeting, which most comic creators aren't that great at. It's all marketing,
creativity on how to use your money correctly.
That's right.
It's no different than running a political campaign. Reason how people who have less money in politics win is they know how to use their money appropriately. Mm-hmm. And when you know how to use money appropriately with buying anything, in reality, you can do very well. And also there's a way to pay for things as they come up and cash flow projects. And, it's how I run my comic book investing business, is that everything is cash flowed. I just made a big purchase today on buying a second position because it was cash flowed. And so very interesting when you're cash flowing and taking money out of the business and cash flowing parts of the business, and then also getting discounts on it. It's such an interesting thing what I do. And then I essentially shorted a comic book today, which is so interesting on how I do it. So anyway, though, that's actually very interesting, because my goal is also not to be on Kickstarter. The idea is to run for 2 or 3 seasons more and get to season 5. And because my goal is to raise $4 to $5 grand on Kickstarter for season 3. I do not need $5 grand for season 3, but the more money I raise, the more infrastructure I can build, and the less likely I have to come back, or the more I can do with this, so that I get to a point where now I don't have to come back, because 66% of season 3 is already funded.
Right.
Kickstarter, which is
and that's why it's for us, we have our Buy Me a Coffee for our podcast, and for us, building that little base already has been like, okay, well, this is at least sustainable to help pay some of this stuff. And then utilizing Kickstarter in conjunction with our email list has obviously helped a little bit. Just building that, having that direct line of communication, because social media has been falling apart so much with algorithms and utilization, that the focus of us driving towards subscriber base and driving towards our email list has been so much more essential and a lot more rewarding here within the last few months.
It's something that I'm slowly cracking the code on, where obviously I put in a lot of infrastructure, and it's going to be way more interesting, and definitely need help in that sector. I'm happy to pay people to help me set the shit up better, because it is rough out there. But also I am also now starting to learn how to tap my network really effectively and use other people's social media to grow my position.
Right.
And so I'm now figuring out how to use different things, but that's neither here nor there. So obviously we just covered a lot of stuff. I'm sure that you and me can go on for hours more, but it's a lot of stuff. But I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok if you got it, Snapchat. I don't know if Snapchat's still around. As well as where's the Kickstarter located? Because a lot of stuff's going on. I think I put the Kickstarter link up and the links up above. But please tell people where they can find you, support you, and check out what this is going on, as well as everything else that you guys do over at Catalyst Comic Studios.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit Catalyst first. So make sure catalystcomicstudio.com. That's where you can pick up our books. That's where you can sign up to get a free copy of Tilt #1. All of our social media is at Catalyst Comic Studio, except for Twitter. That's at Catalyst Comics with an X because Catalyst Comic Studio doesn't fit. And for me personally, this is probably the first time that I've ever talked about like personal side of stuff, but I have classes coming up on Skillshare for creative writing. For those that don't know, I do have a master's of education and I taught creative writing and English literature. So I'm finally utilizing that in a way to help with people writing screenplays, writing comic books. So be looking for that. And then our buymeacoffee.com/beardsandcomics. That is tied in with our Bearded Society and our Beards and Comics podcast. So definitely check that out as well. And then I also do editing for comic books. I've been doing it a lot more lately, and I'm having a great time doing it. So if you need a comic book editor, I am available.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff going on, and I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it, that you have to support indie comic creators. And what that means, first and foremost, is you have to back their Kickstarter projects.
Yes, please.
So if they have a Kickstarter that's going on, back it, whether it's a digital tier for $5 or you're going all the way up and buying the most expensive tier. Every little bit helps, and it goes a long way. Or if you're somewhere in the middle, it goes a long way. If you just want to read some comics, and you can get pretty much everything for about $15. So it's really not that expensive. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. Also, you're not going to have to worry about shipping. But let's say that spies aren't your thing. Obviously, Catalyst Comics has a lot more other things. Tilt is a superhero story. Everville, Welcome to Everville is sort of Van Helsing, horror, spooky type story / apocalyptic story. And then there's a few other things that you guys have out there as well. So if this book isn't exactly your cup of tea, there's something at Catalyst Comic Studios that will be. So obviously, and if you buy, Welcome to Everville, obviously you're indirectly supporting this project as well, because every sale helps to get a creator to the next book. But
right.
Let's say that money's super tight. And look, I've been there. I just started work last week for the first time in almost 20 months. So obviously I know how tight money can be. I understand that. So one of the things is that if you're in a position where money's tight, and you really can't support because $5 means everything to you, please follow people on social media, sign up for email lists, check out what people are doing, listen to shows, listen to what they're doing, enjoy it, support it, share it out, share the Kickstarter out, because you never know who's watching. It goes a long way. So if that's the case, obviously, please don't put yourself in debt to go support a project. Please take care of yourself first. But you can do a lot of things that make a difference, because, again, these projects don't come across my desk, and then if somebody shares them, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a cool project. Let me go check it out. And then just happened. I just booked an interview for Sunday, and a person then came across my desk, and I'm like, oh, this looks like an awesome project. Hey, you free Sunday? Yep. And now that person's getting media. So that's big. Also, I'm an indie content creator. Obviously, I'm working out my Kickstarter. So when that drops, it will be under Pop Anime Comics. So if you type in Pop Anime Comics, that's where the Kickstarter will be. It will either be Pop Anime Comics or Pop Anime Comics 1. I thought the 1 was really cool to throw it in there. And then when I possibly do a second one, it'll be Pop Anime Comics 2. But right now it's 1, because I am number 1 right now. So obviously that's something that you should support. If you need ad space, you need a guaranteed guest spot, you just want to support a creator, feel free to do that. Also, I have Buy Me a Coffee. It's in the link up above. It's Bob Anime Comics. I appreciate all support. It goes a long way. Again, I'm an indie comic crew. I'm an indie content creator. Wow, I can't speak today. And I appreciate support tremendously. And if you want a live read right now, that's the way to do it. Obviously, LK Eugenio just did a live read, and a bunch of other people have done them as well. And let's be realistic, Facebook ads suck in a lot of ways. So definitely, think about that. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But more importantly, I appreciate likes, shares, comments. So that's really what we're here to do. And I want people to actually see and listen to these interviews. A lot of fun stuff's coming. I will give one little spoiler that if we do hit a certain goal on that Kickstarter that I'm running, we are getting comic book theater. And I have some very cool people who are interested in comic book theater, and they will become thespians. And we will be acting out certain books, and one of the first books we will be talking about is Sister Mercy by my friend Corey Hardiman. So that's going to be a very exciting book, and let's just say there's some very, very fun characters, and there's a particular character that I am going to be playing, and it will be very Shakespeare-esque. So having said all that, that's pretty much what's going on with me, and I am going to give you the final word.
The final word is backer.
Okay, that's a wrap. I mean, most people take a few words, but we could go with backer right here.
You said final word.
That is
Backer.
true. That is true. That is true. But you could expand your final word if you would like.
Become a backer.
That works for me, because that's what everybody should do. That is exactly what everybody should do. And on that note, that is a wrap.